Anyway, the next scientific and actually want to touch upon from the 100 is spacebound corpses. Yeah, spacebound corpses. Anyway, eventually, people in the Ark, the people in the Ark discovered that their life support system was collapsing, and the government couldn't keep the secret for long, and so the government explained that they need to keep their life support going for an extra month or so, and to do that they need to get rid of about 300 people. First, people were all against it, then later on they said most of these people decided to volunteer to be euthanized. Is that the right word? I'm going to say euthanized. So then all these 300 people were put in this one chamber where the air was sucked out and they all suffocated and died. Then later on, their bodies were dumped overboard. Then roughly an hour later, those bodies entered the Earth's atmosphere, much like meteors and such. I mean, I don't deny that possibility. The problem is that I was under the impression that if you did dump corpses off a space station, it would take weeks or months for the corpses to deorbit. Instead, they just deorbited within an hour, which I think is impossible if my understanding of orbital mechanics is correct. I mean, here's an example of why I think corpses falling out of orbit within an hour is highly unlikely. Skylab, yeah, Skylab, and if I remember correctly, Skylab was launched in 1973, and they had 3 Skylab missions conducted over the following year or so. And I believe that in 1974, Skylab was essentially abandoned because of budget cuts. And roughly 5 years later, it fell out of orbit. So let's see. On the 100, corpses can fall out of orbit within an hour. But in real life, satellites can take years to fall out of orbit, like Skylab did. So that's another horrible inaccuracy. I think it is anyway. The next issue I want to bring up is radiation. Okay, one relatively recent episode of the Ark dealt with this place called Mount Weather. And Mount Weather is basically an underground facility where the descendants of nuclear war survivors live. And there was one scene where they have 2 Ark kids and a Mount Weather kid were in some room somewhere, and a radiation leak hit, and that one Mount Weather kid got hit with a megadose of radiation, and the other 2 kids also got hit with a megadose of radiation, but they didn't get as sick as she did. But eventually they did treat her illness by using some kind of blood transfusion from one of the Ark kids. This is not quite what I was wanting to get into, but I'm going to bring this up anyway. What about blood typing issues? Maybe they solved that problem. I don't know. But anyway, one of the doctors there treating the sick kid explained that the reason why the Ark kids survived the radiation is because they were born and lived in space, and as such, their body was adapted to absorb radiation and filter it out. That doesn't make sense to me, because if I understand correctly, cosmic rays are basically elementary particles emitted from the sun and other stars that travel at near the speed of light. So, and as such, the reason why cosmic rays can cause problems like cancer, radiation sickness, and whatnot is because the particles can knock electrons out of their orbits. So it'll mess with your DNA as a consequence and cause potentially deadly effects. Now, I don't understand how the human body can, I don't know, slow down particles traveling near the speed of light and then filter them out, and if they're filtered out, where do they go? Yeah, and anybody who knows way more about this than I do, please either confirm or please confirm what I'm saying, if you can. As far as I can tell, the only way to protect from radiation, or let's say the best way to protect from radiation, is shielding, not some weird um, adaptation that's not physically possible, or at least I don't think it's physically possible. And according to my notes, I have one more issue to bring up, and I'll bring it up in hopefully a few minutes.